So earlier we're talking about the syntax in Python, yes, and in order to actually print something on the screen, you need a print statement. So that is one. It's kind of an inbuilt syntax, and those syntax, some elements of them are called functions. So they help us to, just like if you're familiar with Excel, you know that Excel has some functions, and this kind of like they are like predefined things. So print is kind of like a special kind of function. You use it to print statements to the screen. So if I type print and I enclose my text in a bracket, so I'll put it in quotes. The reason for that is because this is a string. So let's type this is a Python course. So um you can see I've typed this one now, and when you type your code, it's usually typed in an IDE. So it's an editor that's where you can type your code. So but when you want to execute your code, you need to press the play button. So you can see this button here. So this exact button here. So this is the button for playing. So I'll click on it right now. So this button here, when I click it, I'll get my code executed. So here we go. This is the result. This is the output. So it has printed it. So this is the product of that um, code. So this is what is showing on the in the output. So let's go back to the editor environment. Now you can't just keep using Python for printing ordinary statements. Python is capable of doing lots more, and I'll paste a code here, and this code I'll paste is a special kind of code. So let's deal with it. So I'll click on paste now. So now I have the code here. I've pasted the code. Now in this case, this code here, it's a code that does a special kind of stuff for us. So now this is a series of lines. These lines, they each represent codes. So you can see in the first line, the wonderful thing about Python is that your code is actually numbered in lines, and that is basically the same for most code editors. So we have the first line, we have print, this is a course. Then we have in the third line, so I skip the second line. In the second line there's ordinary space. It does not affect your execution of your code. In the third line you have print, giving a series of words, separate each on a separate line. Print, this program find the length of the longest word. Then on line 5 we have print, please enter several sentences, one per line. Then in line 6 we have print, finish with a blank line. So then line 7 you have mark z equals 0. Now let me create a space here so as to so as I said earlier, this space doesn't affect the execution of the code. So this space I just need it to distinguish different aspects of the code. So I want to start from this and while yes, this while statements. So there are different blocks of code here, and I want to be able to explain them differently. So yes, we have the while block. Good. So now it's time to explain this differently. Now basically this from line 1 to 6 we have print statement. So that is a function, it's an inbuilt function of Python that is designed to print whatever you input in on the screen. Then we also have the line 8, we have mark z equals 0. Now this is a variable, we are defining a variable here. So we are defining this variable which is named mark z. We are assigning it a value of 0. So you can also assign a variable any value. For example, let me assign it a value of, let's say 12. Is still valid. So you are free to that's why it's called a variable. So for those of you who have done mathematics, who know the basis of mathematics, when you assign a variable you are basically giving it a value. So and variables always have this kind of random values, kind of, I guess. So then you have the word is also a variable, but it's a the type is a string. So then you have next, you have while word equals len word greater than 0. So why the length of this word, so we are referring to this word variable now. Why the length of this word variable? So this while statement is is also a kind of is a Python's inbuilt syntax. So while the length of, so this on line 11 we are telling the Python we're telling the Python compiler that while the length of the word variable is greater than 0. So this colon tells us what to do. So we have on line 12, we have word equals input if length of word is greater than maxi. Maxi equals length of word. If maxi is equals to 0, print there are no words. So basically this is a kind of code that picks the maximum word on a line. So then I can also insert a comment. So in Python you use a hashtag for a comment. So this is a comment. So this in this episode I'm going to be just talking about various elements of Python syntax. So you guys can just move along with any aspect. But you don't need to cram everything. I will provide a resource where you guys can actually revise Python. So and you can also download PDFs. You can download PDFs at bookbone.com. You can download PDFs related to different subjects of your interest at PDF Drive. It's a website where you can get a lot of PDFs, including Python PDFs. So that being said, let's move on. So from line 11 to line 18, we have the while block. So we are asking that if the length of the word is greater than 0, that means the length of this word is greater than 0, then we will input, we will let the word equals to input. So and that input, it takes input from user. Then if the length of word is greater than maxi, that's the variable maxi, then maxi equals length of word. So and then in this is kind of the block that does the magic. So that means if the length of the word here, which we are taking here, so if the length of this word is actually greater than maxi, which is a special kind of variable, then the maxi will be equals, we assume we take that value of the length of the word. That means it will take the value of the length of the word. So if you just count the length of the word. So in order to cut this long story short, let's execute this code and see what happens. So now you can see that it's giving me a jumble of gibberish, almost unintelligible. So but the meaning of all this thing is that I've made an error, so I need to go back and correct that. Now with this error, I need to teach you something. In Python there's what's known as indentation. So Python code, you need to indent your code block. So that means anytime you have a function, you need to indent the blocks of code that are under that function. So I'll put I can also make use of tab. So that tab will insert automatically insert some spaces. So I can also tab this place too. I'll click on tab and then it will automatically indent that for me. So I guess what else do I need to indent? So I will need to indent all these lines of code that are after the while block with a tab, then again with a tab. So this line 15, I also indent it with a tab. Then line 16, also I need to indent it. So I'm having issues locating the line 16, yeah. So I need to indent it with a tab. So I don't know what that red was for, but it certainly wasn't part of the intended lesson today. That's an issue with the editor. So then I've indented it. So let's see how it looks. So this indentation, it will match what Python needs, but that's not all. So you will notice that there are some words in blue. Now these are Python inbuilt statements. So these are Python default statements, and anytime we use those, we might also need to use an indentation with them. So I will still make use of a tab again. I will make use of a tab. So here we go. Yes, that's good. So I guess that is all for that. Yes, we have that. That's cool. So let's move on. Let's see how this goes. So let's try executing it again. So it looks like we still have issues. Now the issue now here is with line 16. So you can read this. So the file string line 16. So print your no words. So I guess there's an indentation error in line 16. Let's check it out. So let's go to line 16. So we have line 16. So that means this print statement was supposed to be tabbed. So let's put a tab there. So and then we'll be good to go. And also let's also print. So after every so this should teach you that after every Python inbuilt statement, you need to add an indentation. So I hope that's all. I'm hoping we won't come across any more errors. So let's execute the code now. So here we go. Bravo. So we've gotten that this is a Python course. Given a series of words, each on a separate line, this program finds the length of the word. So now the length of the longest word. So now let's input. So this gives us a chance to input. Let's type my name. Okay, my name is Nathaniel. So now most of you would have known by now that the essence of coding is to solve problems, right? Now this time around I'm trying to solve the problem of looking for the longest word in a sentence. So let's type enter and let's see what it goes. So the longest sentence is 21 characters long. So that shows that the longest sentence is 21 characters long. So it has counted the length of the sentence I inputted in my code, and then if I type another sentence to compare that to the first one, let's say this the boy. So it will still maintain that the longest sentence is 21 characters long. But if I exceed that, let me just type a jumble of gibberish letters and see all its inputs. So now it's saying that the longest sentence was 42 characters long. So this kind of code might not look meaningful, but actually in a real world we solve a lot of problems like this, and we make use of this little knowledge of Python to solve problems. So I hope you've gained a little bit of knowledge about Python syntax, and at the end of the day you should be able to print output into the screen. You should have understand about indentation, how to indent blocks of code after each Python default word, and then you also talked about comments and variables. So next class will be dealing with much more. Thanks for watching and see you next episode. So here we go.